Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Travis Jensen. I am the Vice President of Leadership Initiatives at the SDSU Alumni Association. I'm thrilled to welcome you to today's professional development session, part of the NextGen Leaders Tools for Professional Success series, co-hosted by the SDSU Office of Career Development and the SDSU Alumni Association. This series is designed to equip emerging professionals with essential skills to thrive in their careers. Today's session, Essential Skills for the Workplace, will focus on valuable skills that will help any professional thrive. Now, before we get started, just a couple housekeeping items. I would ask that all attendees please keep yourselves on mute during the presentation. We would hate to cause any distractions. I also imagine there will be questions during our session. You are more than welcome to enter your questions in the chat feature. We will attempt to answer those questions throughout the presentation, and we'll also have time at the end for Q&A. With that, I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce today's speaker. Brandon Burnette is an accomplished HR leader with over a decade of experience in people operations, HR technology, and HR transformation. Known for his passion for developing future leaders and fostering employee engagement, Brandon thrives on creating innovative solutions to drive organizational success. He holds a Bachelor of Arts in Communication from Arizona State University and a Master of Science in Journalism from South Dakota State University. Brandon resides in Phoenix, Arizona. He enjoys some great barbecue, creating YouTube content, and exploring emerging technologies alongside his wife and their husky, Daisy. I am pleased to welcome Brandon as today's speaker. Brandon, this Zoom is yours.
Travis, thank you so much, and thank you to Kevin as well in the Office of Career Development. It's an honor to be here. I appreciate that short bio. So yeah, very excited to reconnect with the Jackrabbit community. And I will say I attend a lot of seminars, TED Talks, and I'm a lifelong learner. I was an adjunct professor here in Phoenix, Arizona for 2.5 years. I've been in human resources for almost 14 years now. I would share with you a little bit more about my background. As Travis shared, I graduated from Arizona State University with a bachelor's degree in communication. And I just realized, Travis, I'm not sharing my slide deck, am I?
You are not, but I thought you were maybe just waiting for the right opportunity to do so.
I'm on it, man.
You're good now. We see it now.
Okay, fantastic. I just want to bring up chat because I would like to watch chat throughout as well. So just bear with me. So as I'm doing this, as Travis mentioned, I graduated Arizona State with a degree in communication. And shortly thereafter, I actually worked in medical sales. I marketed radiological services to doctors, had a large territory in the Phoenix metro area. I really enjoyed sales. It was fast-paced. The quota was a little stressful, but I did that for over a year. And then I transitioned, I should say, into the pet food industry. And I worked for a phenomenal company called Blue Buffalo. If you've ever heard of Blue Buffalo dog food, I'm actually the one that brought it to the Midwest, and first with Sioux Falls, South Dakota. So I took a job opportunity to land in South Dakota. People ask, how did you end up there? Blue Buffalo gave me the opportunity, and I was in South Dakota in Sioux Falls in particular for a year. And I was, marketing Blue Buffalo food, and I was thinking, do I want to stay in business development and sales for the rest of my career? And I was very uncertain. I was considering law school at the time. I was studying for the LSAT. And then I drove up to Brookings, which is an hour to the north. I did a tour of SDSU's campus and met with their journalism school, Dr. Lyle Olson, Dr. Dennis Hine, and many others. I was offered a scholarship to actually pursue a master's in journalism with a graduate teaching assistantship. So that's how I landed in South Dakota, and then moved back after graduation in 2010, started a publishing company utilizing my journalistic skills I gained, and then ended up in human resources. I started as a human resource consultant, got promoted to an HR business partner, I was with a smaller firm in Phoenix called DeVal HR, and we supported nonprofit groups. We supported local government, healthcare. So I got a real taste of different industries and human resources. And a lot of people feel that, HR is not your friend. They hire and fire people, but and they manage risk for the organization. I'm here as an HR professional to tell everybody on the call when we talk about workplace skills. HR people are good people. I like to think, most of us. And yes, we support the organization, we manage risk, but we very much support employees. We have a role in HR to empower employees, make sure that they're engaged, they're supported by their management teams, that they have the tools necessary to do their jobs and thrive, right? So when Travis and Kevin approached me to give this presentation on workplace skills, I got very excited because I'm very passionate about success in the workplace. And I looked at the roster to see who would be joining the call, and we have vice presidents, directors, managers of all levels, individual contributors, SDSU alumni. We have students, we have graduating seniors. So the information we're going to discuss today, and my presentation style is very informal. This is a conversation. I'm going to try not to lecture the whole time. Travis and Kevin will be primary on chat, but I want everybody to use chat. You can comment, you can use, I don't know if we have the emojis turned on, if that's appropriate, but definitely use chat. And I'd like to keep it somewhat interactive. We're going to have too many people on the call to field questions. If you come off mute, we could inadvertently talk over each other, but chat will definitely be a focus. I want to be interactive throughout the presentation. And with that being said, I shared a little bit about my background. I'd like to jump into the next slide if I can. These are some of the topics we're going to be covering today. Critical thinking, leadership, professionalism, soft skills. Okay. So those were topics that Travis, Kevin, and I discussed, really key topics. I added some additional topics that I thought were relevant to this broader group: data, tech savviness, adaptability and resilience in the workforce, and then effective in communication. Even though I put Q&A at the end, I would encourage you, if you have a comment, if you have anything, to say, you can absolutely put that in chat. That is perfectly fine. All right, we're going to go to our next slide. So the prelude. Before we get into those topics, I wanted to share with you about the changing workforce. It really is an unprecedented time, a good time to, whether you're entering the workforce or you're mid-career like I am, to be in the workforce, because we actually have 5 generations working in the workforce. We have the traditionalists, they're now in their mid 70s, and even some of them are in their their early 80s. It's a small fraction of the workforce. You have baby boomers, they're about 18% of the workforce. Generation X, 31% of total workforce. The millennials, which I'll be vulnerable with you guys. I fall into this category. 1981 to 1996, that's 30%, 36% of the workforce. And then 15% are Generation Z, 97 to 2012. And we have probably almost every representation on this call for those different groups. So when you think about workplace skills and really honing in on good skills, you want to, collaborate with different personalities, different generations, and be successful in that. So, and I want to say one more thing before we get into all the bullet points. This is a Gallup poll. You can Google this or use AI to validate this. But Gallup did a poll last year, a research poll, and this is specific to U.S. employers. Okay. 31% of the U.S. workers are engaged at work. 31%. That means 69% essentially don't really enjoy their jobs. They're not motivated. They're not. It's not working out well for them. I think that's a jarring statistic, and I'll take it one level further. under the age of 35, if you're under the age of 35, that 31% dropped to 26%, right? So, and here are the themes, according to Gallup. Lack of clarity of role or expectations. I don't feel supported in my job by management, right? Lack of recognition. There's not enough recognition in jobs today. Whether it's peer-to-peer recognition or management recognition, and then opportunities for advancement. So many people feel that they've hit a glass ceiling, which is, to some extent, unfortunate. So if you really here's my goal for today. When we go through these conversations, if you can take 2 or 3, I call them nuggets. If you can take away, Brandon said, like something about you could lead from any position. You don't have to be a manager to be a leader, and you can run with that. And what does that look like for me constructively? If you can take 2 to 3 nuggets, write down an actionable item. That's my goal for everybody on the call today, is to have an actionable item to take away from the presentation. Because, this is like drinking from a fire hose. We're going to discuss a lot of information today. My presentation style, I don't put a lot of detail on slides. We have a couple of brief activities where we'll chime in on chat, but I don't try not to read slides word for word. So I think we're ready to jump right in on critical thinking. I'm so glad that this was the top skill, because regardless of your level or your duration or what generation you come from, there is continued higher expectations to use critical thinking. And what does that mean? What is critical thinking? It's making informed decisions by evaluating several different sources of information, looking for objectivity, and I'll share this this line from you from a retired doctor, Dr. Gene Roth. He said, it's better to fix a problem than deal with the issue. So focus on fixing the problem. Use your critical thinking to focus on the problem than just deal with the issue or sweep the issue under the rug. And think about this. He also said, in order to fix the problem, you have to identify the problem. Otherwise, you're going to be dealing with the issue thinking that you're fixing the problem. Just think about that, right? And how do we do that? How do we identify the problem? How do we solution the problem? We think critically, okay? And I think just for drawing relevance to modern day, we had 2 very significant, tragic, unfortunate airline crashes, one in DC and one in Philadelphia. That's very uncommon in the United States to have those occurrences. But, some of the media and others have, been quick to, I'll say, judge irresponsibly and, speculate what caused the crash, or even very confidently say, oh, these are the contributing factors. This is what happened. Well, that would be probably a little premature, because that's a very complicated problem, what happened with those accidents. So in order to, like, if you look at like the NTSB and their methodical investigation process takes weeks and months, what are they doing? They're evaluating data. They're looking at facts. They're analyzing information effectively, right? They're really trying to differentiate fact from opinion. And that is a very, very large example. A plane crash, that's very extreme. But let's say that in the workplace, there was a change to a business process, like you upgraded your software, and business process changed, workflows changed, and there was an error. Like, let's say someone was supposed to get a notification, when it was their start time for the first day, and it wasn't happening. Like, you have to analyze. That's a smaller scale problem, but you got to analyze like downstream impacts, upstream impacts. Let's look for root cause. Let's look at the facts before we just make an assumption why this is happening, right? So solution through logical reasoning, breaking down a complex problem into manageable parts. And I don't have a dedicated slide for this, but I was thinking like, and a lot of you on this call will know what I'm talking about. I know Travis and Kevin will know, but one of the greatest tools that really makes you think for critical thinking exercise is doing a SWOT analysis. So if you could put in chat, what is a SWOT analysis? Anyone on the call, like, do you know what the SWOT analysis acronym stands for? Have you heard of it before? I would love to see anybody chime in on chat for that. Wow. All right. Thank you. Sydney, Joe, thank you. Hallie, Destiny, that's exactly right. You guys nailed it. So now this might be controversial, forgive me, because it's been some good past couple of years. And again, not a dedicated slide to this. I have a few slides, but here's what we're going to focus on. I want to challenge us to do a SWOT analysis in group chat. We're going to do a real exercise. We want it to be interactive in chat. And here's what I want us to do. You can do a SWOT analysis on anything you'd like, a business process, an organization. You could do macro, micro. I'd like us to do a SWOT analysis. This is going to be really challenging because of all the strengths, but let's do SDSU football. Let's do a SWOT analysis of SDSU football. What does that look like? So when we think of strengths, like the first S for strengths, we're looking at like internal strengths, positive, and we can actually do this in real time. What are some of the strengths when you think of SDSU football and the team? And you could put in chat. Yeah, Dan Jackson, right? Awesome. Yes, Core Foundation. I love that. Good history of being champs. I think I do follow SDSU football. I think playoffs, 12-year run, 13-year run, reputation, fan base. You got ESPN coming to Brookings, right? So yeah, that I love that. Dedication, love that. Awesome. So for the sake of time, we're going to transition into weaknesses. And this might be really, really hard, and it might be controversial. You might disagree, but you are challenging your way of thinking by critically thinking. No organization, person, or business process is perfect. We all have opportunities. So can anybody think of anything, I cited on my notes, and I don't know this because I'm overdue to visit Brookings. I got to have a good hamburger at Nick's. Got to get over there. But I thought maybe rising ticket costs because, demand is going up. And with demand, ticket cost goes up, right? Yeah. Oh, true. Yeah, I love that. Becky, all new teammates, takes time to gel. Portal, money, lots of, transfer, graduating. We lost great players. We're starting anew. Yeah, I agree. Okay, let's transition into opportunities. So I want you to think about like what could be opportunities for the 2025 year? What could be a good opportunity for SDSU football? Fresh start. I love that. Coach Dan could bring in a new perspective. You got new players coming in, a lot of new players. Absolutely. Exactly. Love that feedback. Carly, thank you. Destiny, Hallie, Megan. Yeah. Focus on the future, not those that left. Yes, Carrie, totally agree. Okay. Now we're going to transition into, oh yeah, the program C turns, not just the Jacks. I agree. Let's transition into threats. Okay. So this could be, I want you to think very critically on this. What could be a threat to SDSU football? What could be at risk, right? I wrote down, again, controversial, but, University of Montana, NDSU, of course, right? Injuries. Yes, Kelly. People get injured in football. Yeah, that could be an issue. Let's hope. I'm going to knock on my wooden desk here. But yeah, that could derail us for the 2025 season. Yes, funding streams. New players could take a while to form that bond of trust and collaboration, to get us continued wins, right? Yep. loss of interest potentially, hopefully not, but you're thinking critically to get to this stage, okay? So thank you for that chat interaction. The SWOT analysis is a great tool, okay? Strength, weaknesses, opportunity. I'm very impressed some of you knew it. For any students or graduating students on the call, you can always apply a SWOT analysis to really anything. You could do a SWOT analysis for yourself if you'd like. And it makes you think, right? So that was really number 2, solving through logic using the SWOT analysis. Keeping an open mind, okay? You have to remain flexible. People have, different opinions on certain things. I'm trying to, one of my opportunities, if I was to conduct a SWOT analysis on myself and my work skills, I need to do a better job active listening. We have a tendency, and studies have shown, that when the other person is speaking, most people are already formulating exactly what they want to say to that other person while that other person is speaking. So like you're kind of distracted because you think, oh, this is what I'm going to say, when you should just shut up and let them speak and let them finish their full thought. Try not to interrupt. Don't interrupt. And that's active listening, keeping an open mind there. So, okay. We're going to keep cruising for sake of time. I want to do another critical thinking activity in chat. Okay. A lot of bullet points on here. Will be as quick as possible. But here is the hat I want you to wear today. You're responsible for, let's just say you work at the Amazon distribution center. You're in charge of it. A big shipment is scheduled to be delivered by this Friday, but one of your top drivers calls out sick. Okay, that's a problem, right? Now you don't have anybody to deliver the package, okay? The shipment, and we're talking an 18-wheeler truck here. This is not one package. There's a lot of packages, right? If the shipment isn't delivered on time, the company, so let's say Amazon, is going to face financial penalties, okay? There's some regulatory thing there, and you're going to lose your client's trust. All those Amazon Prime members, they're going to be really disappointed. You're going to, and Jeff Bezos would not approve of that, right? So let's critically think through the options. I put A, B, and C in the middle of the screen, if you can see that. Like, what options do you have in this situation? These are only 3 options. You can have 5, you can have 10, you could have hundreds, the unlimited options, right? Because you're going to critically think, how do I resolve this situation? Okay, so let's walk through these, and I'll tell you when we can chime in chat. Okay, just one moment. But here's some options. You can ask another driver to work overtime. Okay, that might lead to burnout. Okay, maybe that's his or hers 3rd, 4th, 5th week driving overtime just to make all these package deliveries to the warehouse, right? That might have a problem. You could delay the shipment and just accept the financial penalty, and then nobody would get their deliveries. So your clients, your Amazon clients, your Prime members, they would be impacted. Or you would split the shipment across multiple drivers. Okay, so we're going to do multiple drivers. You're en route, just pick up these parcels. And, there's going to be an added cost there, but it'll get to the warehouse. People will get their, the client, the Prime members, they'll get their packages on time. So let's look at these questions. And this is where I really want you to focus on chat. What decision would you make and why? And it could be, I'll tell you what, whether it's A, B, or C, you could give me a D, F, like you can create your own solution. How would you resolve this? And I want you to think critically, looking at the facts and looking at the end result, like the best outcomes. Try to formulate a win-win outcome in your mind. Because I think there is better answers. I think out of these 3, there's probably a best answer within the 3, but there could be other solutions. So put in chat what you do. Think about the consequences of your decision, because it's like cause and effect. Every decision has like an outcome. Think about the pros and cons and what other ideas could work. So if I could see some activity in chat for this exercise, that'd be amazing. Yes. Joe, Destiny, important. Okay, I'm reading Carly's. I think it'd be important to consider how many times this has happened and occurs. Option C. Guys, I would agree with you. I think option C is absolutely the best answer. You're going to drive costs, a little bit, but your end user is going to get the delivery. You're going to avoid financial penalties. So very good. Thank you for going through that exercise with me. Leadership. We could have a whole hour, 2-3 hours on the topic of leadership. Jesse from Dakota Bank, who presented on collaboration, teamwork back in December, he did a phenomenal job. He touched on this a little bit. I'd like to expand on it. You can lead from any position, whether you're an individual contributor, you're a manager, any level. Know that leadership is not titles. It's not about giving orders, right? In my opinion, and Jesse, in fact, cited a couple of books on leadership by Bill Maxwell. Bill Maxwell has great books on leadership. It's about inspiring others through your actions, understanding the needs of your people, your peers, working alongside them, growing with them, and leading by example. So some specific examples there with respect to leading by example. And I've seen this with my own teams in human resources, in business lines. Sometimes deadlines become very aggressive. Deadlines change for many reasons. And just like in the previous example with Amazon and the logistics exercise we just did, like you have to be flexible and think creatively. How do we solution that? And often I see, if somebody is required to come in early the next day or stay late to meet a deadline, reaching out to that person or group of individuals. I know this was a last minute change up from leadership. I'd love to help. How can I help you meet that deadline? And maybe stay late with that person. That simple gesture just doesn't get the project done. It creates trust. You motivate people to go the extra mile. So that's just a small example by leading by example. And I try to exercise that myself. So caring about others, your people and their success, supporting your peers. This is all about emotional intelligence. And we talk a little bit about this later, but it's showing empathy, empathizing with others. And, if somebody is, visibly struggling during a project, reaching out to them, asking them how you can support them in their deliverables. And another thing, whether you're a leader or you're working alongside someone as an individual contributor, and if someone is struggling, like we don't always focus on that aspect of the problem or the business aspect. How are you doing? How's life? Like just having a casual conversation. We don't know, having that empathy side. Like we don't know if there's something going on outside these walls, outside the workplace. They could be facing a health condition. They could have just lost their grandmother, or there's other extenuating stressful circumstances on the outside of the workplace that are coming into the workplace, and having that conversation and giving grace in those opportunities. And I'll say this, one of my mentors who actually works at my current bank, his name is Mark, and he says we always have to remember to keep the human in human resources. Okay, that's very, very important, and that is applicable to everybody. We have to keep the human element in work, right? And I'm going to share with you a very specific example, really one of the most profound examples where number 2 and emotional intelligence is clearly demonstrated. We were all part of the pandemic, whether you were attending SDSU or, or you were entering the workforce. Well, I've worked in, corporate jobs most of my life. And when the pandemic happened, I was in human resources, managing operations for Northern Trust, a global Fortune 500 bank. And we were all required, like a lot of places, to transition very rapidly to work from home. And that, what we thought would last weeks, lasted months, and for some organizations, years, right? Depending on the geography and the organization and managing the complexity of the pandemic. Well, when you are isolated for that long of period from your team and you're used to seeing everybody every day, that's not always easy on people. So another mentor, her name is Sue Dow. She did something very amazing during the pandemic. She would reach out to us periodically, sometimes daily, multiple times a week. What is your color today? What is your color today? It would be a message on Teams, right? And there would be a color chart. I recall that like yellow would be, I'm doing great, things are going well. Blue would be, I'm doing okay, I'm hanging in there, doing okay. Now like I believe it was like a red or orange, I need help. I'm not doing well, right? And she cared about it. She was a senior vice president. She was reaching out all these people at all levels. Took a lot of time to do that. She checked in with us during the pandemic. I'll never forget that. It's a really profound example. So you have to care about people. Strong growth mindset. Skillshare, Corsica, TED Talks, LinkedIn Learning, YouTube, Masterclass, all the great resources at SDSU. You know, Travis and Kevin, they have a lot through the Career Development Center. You should, whether you're a student or alumni, stay in tune to all of that. You have to have that growth set. And I would say that is nobody stays in a job forever, and jobs change. Jobs can change anytime. You could have reorganizations, expectations change. If you ask me, my opinion is, and this is applicable if you work at a restaurant, like Thomas, my mentee who's on this call, right? You know, you're doing more work with less resources. You could be working on a farm and you're doing more work with less resources. So you have to have that growth mindset and be able to manage that, right? Okay. So I think we have a little bit of time to touch on the types of leadership. I'm doing a time check. There are different types of leadership. I happen to really embrace a servant leadership mantra where I really prioritize the needs of my team, and I really empower others to succeed. Because if my team does well, I do well, and vice versa. There's a very interdependent relationship. I don't think micromanagement is healthy for people to thrive, right? Transformative leadership or transformational leadership, you think of like a Steve Jobs or Jeff Bezos, where individuals really challenge the status quo. We're not good enough. There needs to be change. We need to drive significant innovation, and this is how we're going to get there, right? So encouraging new ideas, right? Democratic leadership is another leadership style that encourages collaboration, values input from the entire team. I think Jesse in December touched on that. That is an effective leadership style as well. And there are many different leadership styles. Now, another one, which is a little more controversial, it's autocratic, right? Where you're dictating, you're just dictating process or direction constantly. Where that can be effective, where you have like an autocratic leader, would be in a crisis. If there was a military operation or there was a fire and you needed someone to make very important decisions and drive direction without negotiation, we need to do this immediately. But I don't see the autocratic leadership sustainable for too long unless you're in a crisis situation. But I do believe empowering your people to succeed, giving them the tools and resources, allowing everybody to have a voice, an equal voice in the conversation is really important. So those are some different types of leadership. Now we're transitioning to professionalism. This is a fun topic for human resources because sometimes, and I'm not speaking to my bank, but just in all my years of experience, different employers, investigations, the whole, I mean, email is a very common tool, email, chat, even text message is common in the workplace now. Like having those expectations for a professional standard. I think you should bring your real self to work. You should let your personality flourish at work, but you have to maintain professional boundaries, and you should not go down the rabbit hole. And what I mean by that is getting caught up in drama or office politics. There's that at almost every organization, but you can rise above that. And I mentioned appearance and demeanor. You have to know your audience. I say dress for your day. If you're working on the farm, you probably aren't going to be sporting a jacket and tie, right? But I knew I was presenting to you guys. I actually, Travis, Kevin, you'll find this funny just because, it's like, I think it's going to be 75 degrees, a perfect day to walk the Husky in Phoenix. But you guys might get rain later. I was going to wear a t-shirt just to rub it in because it's a little colder in Brookings. But I said, no, I got to be professional for today. Got to dress for my day. There's something called high and low context cultures. You probably learned this, at SDSU or even in the business world. Like a high context culture, really heavy focus on nonverbals. Like if you think of Eastern cultures like Asia, for example, they're not as dependent on eye contact, right? But like a low context culture like the United States, eye contact, very critical, right? Firm handshakes and just adjusting to different styles, adjusting your communication and being professional in those environments. Your work ethic and accountability, securing wins, delivering results, working. It's not about the hours. And it took me a long time in my career. I'm still working on this, by the way. You could put a lot of hours into your role, but it doesn't mean your work product is superior or great, right? You should always strive to work smarter, not always harder, right? But meeting your deadlines, I think there's an absence of all generations, but there's an absence of initiative, ownership of the work. So that's definitely something that we should all strive for, is really taking ownership. Your job in the workforce, in my view, is to make your boss's job easier, okay? To make your boss's job easier, okay? And I instill that mindset with the teams that I build, and we have win-win outcomes. And by the way, you say, well, Brandon, I'm an entrepreneur. I want to run my own business. Well, you know who you're accountable to, your clients, right? So, take initiative for them, make your client's job easier, right? So it's applicable in every situation. Building a positive reputation, I think that's going to be in the NextGen series, so we won't touch on that too much. But really, attitude, building your brand, your reputation, very, very important. So now we have a fun exercise. This could generate some things in chat. Okay, email 1, email 2, and yes, I way exaggerated how bad email 2 is. But I am telling you guys at all levels, right? I see this a lot, and I have in my entire career. Like, who can tell me in chat, what is LMK? I think everybody knows what AS. Okay, let me know. Yeah, right? Some people don't know that. When I first saw that, I had to look it up. Okay? Yeah. And what is HUM right here? What is this HUM if you want? Yeah. HUM. Hit me up. Destiny Haley, yeah. Haley, yeah, on it. Okay. So again, extreme example, but you got to know your audience. And this is not necessarily for the graduating seniors or for students. This is really for everyone. And you say, well, Brandon, what about emojis? Are emojis appropriate? Well, it depends on the context. It depends on the emojis. You can get in trouble by using inappropriate emojis at work. And I would strongly avoid doing that. You can, often in language, there's so much room open to misinterpretation. That's why, when you ever have a sensitive conversation, important conversation, it should be ideally face-to-face, if not over video on the phone, right? So, but I guess the discussion, one of the points I wanted to make for this is like can anyone show me any examples in chat that they've seen where an employee could do better with writing? I just want to pulse the audience and see if you could cite an example of anything you've seen. You know, maybe another acronym that you've seen in the workplace where someone was, I mean, we have to be appropriate in this chat. Think about an example where you could have seen an opportunity for someone to probably do better. And no names. We can't call anybody out here. And as you're typing that, I hope you'll appreciate the old Jackrabbit logo, okay, from back forever ago. Yeah, I'm still rocking it. And I got my mug here with my coffee, got my SDSU journalism mug. I need at least one example, otherwise I can't advance to the next sign. Proofreading would be my top. I see it all the time. Thank you. Yeah, it is very common, which is why I'm calling it out, right? It's hard when a reply all just in, yes. Who are you copying? Like, we send too many emails, guys. Yes. Oh my gosh. That's funny. Carrie, I got the reference. Acronyms, yeah, the letter. So think, I work in financial services and banking. We probably have more acronyms because of the regulatory environment than most industries, but tech has a lot. Healthcare, there's a lot there. So know your audience, know your medium. Should this be a phone call? Should this be an email? And I love the comments in chat because I knew this would generate some activity. All right, so we are over halfway through the slides. I'm going to speed it up just a little bit. Soft skills, taking initiative. We talked about that, really owning things, teamwork, collaboration. Jesse hit that out of the park in December. And Travis and Kevin would appreciate me reminding everyone, not only is this recorded, but I think it's going to be posted on the SDSU alumni page on YouTube, which is awesome. Jesse's presentation is on there. So the NextGen Leader Series, there'll be more of this, which, by the way, it's amazing SDSU is doing this. Different colleges don't have these kind of opportunities for alumni and students alike. So it's, bridging, the academic side with real world application. Amazing. We did touch on work ethic a little bit earlier. I said, working smarter than harder, really thinking about that, taking initiative. So you want to be reliable, you want to be accountable. And particularly if you make a mistake, we make mistakes in our job. We try to learn from them and avoid a pattern of mistakes, but being accountable. Really want to carve out time for tech savviness in the time we have. So if someone transitions on a team, okay, let's say they get promoted and now there's a backfill, there's an empty seat. Well, increasingly, there's pressure to justify headcount within organizations. So you need to make a data-driven decision. You need to justify the headcount, right? What did I say earlier? We're doing a lot more work with less resources for a lot of reasons, whether it's cost control or a talent gap. More is falling on us, no question. We just have to step up, be able to use data to tell our story. Excel, Google Sheets, Tableau, Power BI. Can anybody comment in chat quickly if they use Tableau or Power BI or do storytelling with data? I will be super impressed because those are future tools. They've been around for a little while. I've taken some classes on Power BI. I'm curious if anybody's done it. And I'll be watching chat there. Cybersecurity awareness. 2FA, what's 2FA? Multi-factor identification. There's a lot of phishing exercises, a lot of foreign actors trying to get control of data. In fact, in the European Union, they have something called GDPR, that's Global Data Regulatory Protection. If you ever work for a global Fortune 500 or an organization that does business with anyone in Europe, you're subject to GDPR laws, and you have to be very strict with data. No different than the great state of California. There's the Consumer California Privacy Act, and there may even be a global or a national privacy act coming. So being very cybersecurity conscious would be a very good thing. AI. I'm watching chat, guys, on my left side. Tell me the AI chatbot that just came out that's a little bit controversial. Everybody knows, ChatGPT. We have Microsoft's product, Copilot. But if anyone's following current events, there was a new AI tool that came out in the last week or two, generating a little controversy. Is anyone familiar? It's called, Sydney got it. Yes, DeepSeek. I haven't downloaded it yet, but staying on top of these tools, I'm not encouraging anybody to download DeepSeek or any AI tool, but AI is encroaching in business, and understanding it and applying it to business is very, very important as we think about the future. We're going to probably, just for the sake of time, Travis, if you're comfortable, I'll skip this data analysis activity for sake of time. Thank you. Adaptability and resource. I shared with everybody, nobody stays in a job forever. This is a changing workforce. We talked about the different generations in the 2025 workforce. Guys, you will hit roadblocks. And if you're mid or senior career like me, you know what I'm talking about. But if you are a graduating senior or student or newer to the workforce, you have to have the ability to adapt, to be resilient, and just be dynamic and flexible, because you will face setbacks in your career. Whether your job changes and you don't like it, you could have manager changes and maybe you're not comfortable with certain situations, but you have to adapt to thrive. You have to have thick skin, okay? You need to embrace lifelong learning so you can successfully navigate the workforce. If you're complacent and you're not learning about AI or Power BI or all these really cool up and coming tools, then you could be left behind. And we don't want any jackrabbit left behind, right? So openness to feedback, and I'm probably going to pause in 2 or 3 minutes for questions, but be very open for feedback, whether it's peer to peer, like you're providing peer back to one of your peers, or you're open to feedback from your manager, or even if you provide your manager feedback. Like, it has to be 360, and that openness is how we grow. You don't always have to agree with the feedback. Feedback is a gift. You can do whatever you want with it. You could throw it in the garbage, or you could apply it. If you're seeing the same feedback from different groups of people, there's probably a lot of truth to it. So you have to increase your self-awareness to be openness to feedback. That's how we grow. That's how we thrive, right? So 2 minutes on effective communication. It underpins every other skill, both hard skills, soft skills, competencies. Without communication, effective communication, teamwork will falter, critical thinking will become siloed, and then you can have what's called group think, which is very dangerous. And then leadership would lose its impact. Effective communication is everything. We talked about active listening, knowing your audience, being clear and concise. So I really liked how Jesse in December gave book recommendations. The Elements of Style is a great book. It's like the quintessential book on style and grammatical and how to be concise and clear with language. It's written language, but you can also use it in verbal language too. Elements of Style, another great book on writing well. And if you are in a leadership position, I strongly encourage Radical Candor by Kim Scott. If you desire to be in management or leadership in your career, read Radical Candor by Kim Scott. It shows how leaders can care professionally. They have that high emotional intelligence. They care professionally, but they challenge directly. They give feedback. They set the bar high, and they drive their team to great results because they empower others, right? So Travis, Kevin, we are at the 10-minute mark, and I think we're doing really great on time. So I wanted to hand it off to you guys to facilitate any questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Brandon, thank you so much for that. I'm impressed that you're able to land the plane on time. That's fantastic. We have 10 minutes remaining before we wrap things up. Brandon has done such a great job covering a wealth of information. I want to give our attendees an opportunity to be able to ask questions. I know that he's been open to accepting those questions throughout the presentation, but there might have been things that maybe you would like him to dive deeper on. And so I'd like to turn it over to all of you. Any questions that you have, please enter them in the chat. Kevin and I are fielding those questions. We're happy to toss them over to Brandon. First question we have, Brandon. Any good books or podcasts on sales and negotiations?
Yes, thank you, Hallie and Travis. Yes, I would say anything by Zig Ziglar is great for sales. Zig Ziglar, See You at the Top. Another one that my father, who is also in sales, recommended. I believe it's The Greatest Salesman in the World by Og Mandino. Those are classics. In terms of negotiations, that is a changing environment. If we're talking specifically salary and negotiations, there's a lot of pay transparency laws right now requiring employers in different states, and this might be nationwide at some point if there's any law that passes on the federal side, which will actually show the pay range for different roles, which helps salary negotiations. But on the next slide, I have my contact info, and I would encourage you to reach out to me. I can give you any specific tips for salary or compensation negotiations, because that's challenging and complex in itself, whether you're looking at a sign-on bonus, equity or stock positions, and then making sure you're competitive with market, your degree, your qualifications, your skill set aligns with the role. So I'd be happy to connect with you outside of this call on salary negotiations.
Brandon, going back to one of the first talking points that you touched on regarding critical thinking, a question related to that: what are some practical ways that young professionals can develop critical thinking skills early in their careers?
Yeah, well, I think it goes back to unconscious bias, Travis, is we all have preconceived notions about a lot of different things, right? Whether it's about food or people, like, oh, well, this particular food, like, tastes good. Well, what tastes good? Like I love Panda Express. And by the way, I heard a Panda Express came to Brookings and was open for a little bit while in the student union. Is it closed? Did it shut down? I heard it would like it. Yeah. Oh, devastating. So my point to answer your question is people have different tastes, different foods, but you shouldn't make assumptions. Like when you're early career, you have a tendency to believe whether it's food we're talking about or a certain group of people are very good at this skill or they're very bad at this skill. You have to challenge yourself in not, we all have unconscious biases, but they're not always accurate, right? Like it would be false for me to assume everybody loves Panda as much as I do. Maybe some people don't love Panda as much, right? So, or it's certain groups of people. And by the way, that's really, really hard because we have habitual behaviors or experiences or upbringings that kind of not necessarily put us in a closed, narrow-minded space, but it allowed us to have these assumptions that really need to be challenged. So I would say when you think critically, what you think you know is the answer might not be the answer, right? And you don't know what you don't know. So get other perspectives. I believe, Travis, the diversity of thought brings about the best solutions, the best ideas. And that's my opinion. So, and it's hard to get there sometimes. You have to challenge yourself.
Brandon, you had talked about leaders, no matter title, right, exist on teams. How do you best achieve buy-in of staff when you're serving as leader, but you don't necessarily have that title?
So that can be hard. I would say that it all goes back to effective communication in building relationships. So we get work done through people. I'll repeat that. We get work done through people, and that happens through effective communication and relationships. So regardless of what level you're at in an organization, Travis, it's important that we build strong relationships with our peers, like at all levels of the organization. And in gaining buy-in can be very challenging. And there's this old adage that it starts at the top, and there's a lot of truth to that because executive leadership has to cascade the message, and but really it equally starts at the bottom. And you have to give everybody at all levels of the organization a voice in most decisions. And even if a decision is overruled, give the opportunity to express opinion or facts on, say, a business process change or an upcoming, something significant that would impact their desk. It would impact their job. So I think that is how you do it, is giving everybody really an equal voice and gaining, Travis, you have to gain the buy-in together. And that has to do with leadership style. If you are empowering people as a servant leader, you can easily achieve that. I would say not always easily, but the outcome for success is higher to gain that buy-in.
Thank you. We have time for one final question. If there's anyone that is currently attending right now that has a question, we certainly have time for one last question.
As we're waiting. Oh, you do? Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
You had touched on soft skills. I think you did a great job of touching on some of the more important soft skills that we all should possess in the workplace. What do you believe are maybe some underrated soft skills, and why do you feel like they're important?
Well, that is a really good question. I think it goes back to taking initiatives. A lot of people go into jobs with expectations that their boss is going to tell them what to do. I defer to my boss. I defer to my boss for direction. Again, going back to my adage that your job is to make your boss's job easier. That soft skill for taking initiative. You should not wait for direction from management on many, many things. You should be bringing solutions to them to make their job easier, your job easier. So I would say that singular soft skill that is really overlooked is taking initiative. And the second one that is right next to it, which we touched on a lot, is having a high EQ. Okay, emotional intelligence, having empathy for people and really supporting people. And by the way, this is a common mistake that I've seen throughout my career. When someone gets promoted to a new role, and let's say you wanted that role and you didn't get it, that's hard. But you should champion the success of the other person, because when you support others, they in turn are going to support you. And your opportunity is next. Your opportunity is coming. So having that support, that empathy side, taking initiative, those are underrated.
Thank you. So we are approaching the end of the hour. Carly, I did see your question. So the question and what I think we'll do with this is, she asked, do you have any tips on developing effective communication skills? And then do you have any recommendations for books or podcasts? And so what I think we'll do for the sake of time is, Brandon, I will collect that answer from you. And when we post this recording on LinkedIn, I'll be sure to include Brandon's recommendations towards podcasts and books as a part of that post. So Carly, please watch on our LinkedIn for that information. With that, Brandon, I want to thank you for your time. I'm going to kick it over to Kevin real quick. Kevin has some information that he would like to share with everyone. Kevin?
All right. Thanks, everybody, for your attendance and your attention. Thanks a lot, Brandon. So I'm going to push a few links to everybody in the chat. I have a post-session feedback assessment form. If you could take time to fill this out, it would really help us out in future like programming efforts, things like that. So hopefully it's a pretty brief survey for you. So the other thing I want to make sure to share our website. We serve students and alumni. So don't hesitate to reach out to us if you want any tips on anything that Brandon talked about. We can help supplement some of that, any other types of career development prep. And then here's another link to the Alumni Association YouTube channel to access some of these other videos that we've done too. So again, thanks for everybody's attendance and attention. And yeah, thank you, Brandon.
All right, thank you. Thank you all for joining today's session, part of the NextGen Leaders Tools for Professional Success series. Again, a big thank you to Brandon Burnette for sharing his insights and practical tips on developing essential skills for the workplace. These are skills that not only enhance professional success, but also help build stronger, more effective teams. We hope you found today's discussion valuable and that you're leaving with actionable strategies. Be sure to watch for upcoming sessions in this series. Thank you all, and I hope you have a great day.
Thank you.